you could be somebody who is on their spiritual path right now. And I meet people like this too, who are like, I am, and I'm married to someone who doesn't understand this at all. Or I just feel like nobody understands me and you can't almost unsee what you've seen now. So
Yeah.
you start losing these friendships that, you were once so close with someone, and now all of a sudden you realize that you have nothing in common with them anymore. And honestly, it helped me sort of rewire my brain about how I want to be, what kind of a partner I want to be to my husband.
Welcome to MAMWAA. I'm Gordy, your host, and this is the podcast that includes you into my most famous song lyrics.
He's a middle-aged man with an attitude, and he didn't even have one till he met you.
That's right, I'm the middle-aged man, and my attitude will chatter us through all things that I'm passionate about, from spirituality, the gym and fitness, food, travelling, and music or movies. Quick disclaimer, this list is not exhaustive. So you can get on or you can get off and join us for the episodes that you like the sounds of. Dip in or dip out, as long as you keep dipping. Either way, we've got something to say and we're going in 3, 2, 1. Discussion that opened up so many doors for conversation that we just had to invite our spiritual life coach and healer back on the show. I'm Gordy, and as you all know, I love my spirituality conversations and regular healing. So our guest returning today has made a name for herself in the Reiki healing space and other spaces. Rebecca Weinstein, thank you so much for coming back. How are you?
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm actually doing really well. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, I'll tell you something. There's a lot for us to talk about today, but for anyone who did see the last episode with you, just give us a bit of a rundown. How did all your events go? How's everything you've been working on? How's it
Honestly,
been? Tell us.
it was a powerhouse year. And I have to say, the best thing you can ever do for yourself is to maybe just rework your resume and actually take yourself through the process of what you've been working on. And I had to do that for a friend needed a copy of my resume for something. And I spent some time actually looking at what I've achieved in the last year and blew myself away. I mean, there were certainly things that I did not achieve, but I think I did over 45 events in 1 year, which
Amazing.
I mean, is a lot. It was definitely a lot, but I just felt like I needed to get myself out there. And it's just been very rewarding. As I've looked back on what I've done, and I'm looking at the things that were successful and also the things that maybe were unsuccessful. So it's been a great journey so far. So
Yeah.
excited to see what this year brings.
Amazing. Do you know what? It really helps to take stock, because me and my partner, either over Christmas period or every January, like we put some time aside to just say, how do we think our year has been? Like, not so much just about work, but like we always set goals together, and we say, like, this last year we kind of felt a bit rubbish about it for one thing or another, and we thought, oh, the year's just been a bit rubbish. But when Christmas or January happened, and we sat down and we said, let's just do a bit of a pros and cons on the year. And then all those things that had overshadowed the good things didn't outweigh anything. Like, there was like 4 times more positive, great, amazing things that happened for us over the year. But just a couple of really rubbish things just overshadowed it all. And I think
yeah,
it's so important, like you say, when you take stock, even it doesn't have to be every year, does it? We can do it monthly, we can do it quarterly, but it really highlights how much we overthink and how much we yeah.
So it's interesting you say that. There's 2 different ways for me of kind of looking at that when you say, like, how was it? And I think about what did I accomplish? And I think about, like, the tangible things, like, how many events did I do? How many clients did I see? How do you measure success, in a tangible way, right? And we're so used to, as human beings, just having, like, these benchmarks, like, if I get X number of this, then I'll have Y, right? So there's that piece, which I'm constantly deprogramming myself from, but I think that's just a natural part of being human. But then there's that other side, which is, what is my mindset? How has my mindset changed from last year to this year? So interesting fact, I of course, being in the world of spirituality, I did a vision board workshop for some people, for some clients in the community. And I had so much fun prepping for it. But what was really cool and what stood out to me was I wanted to pre-make my board before I actually ran the workshops. I'd have a sample to show, and also just a great exercise to run through. And so as I was looking at last year, and now I was looking at this year, and I love to put a bunch of different quotes together and images and things, and how I was able to judge like where I've kind of been and where I'm going and maybe where I see myself is, what did I have on there last year that resonated with me last year? And when I look at it this year, do I have the same feelings about it? Or am I like, no, I did that. I feel that way now. Like, it's over. I don't need to be reminded by it, like, because I'm just living it.
Yeah.
And it was such a cool experience. There were so many things where I was just like, yeah, no, like, I'm already living that. I'm living that reality. And now I need to let go of that because now I'm looking at this. And that was so cool.
Yeah. And also it brings it to the forefront of your mind that it actually happened. Because we put the vision board together, we manifest the thoughts, we really put ourselves in that space, and then it sits in our subconscious. So when it happens, we don't always realize it's actually happened. So yeah, just taking stock. I love doing that.
And I mean, it really is. It's really incredible. And so I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And then I got to watch the magic unfold for all these other people at the workshop, which is kind of fun. So.
It's really special, isn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing. Right. So I'll tell you what then. Coming back to today then, we looked at the basis. So for anyone who didn't see the last episode with Rebecca, head yourself back, and we spoke a lot about Rebecca's work and the Reiki that she does for like humans and animals, the spirituality work that she does, the workshops that she just spoke about. So today I thought we're going to take this to the next level, and we're going to make this episode spirituality and. So this could be a series of and what, and this, and that. Let's just see where it goes. Now, the first one that I thought we could talk about is the relationship between spirituality and self-care. So I know like there's a lot of conversation that people have about meditation, things like vision boards, like that all fits into looking after ourselves. How do you feel about self-care when we go past the everyday manifestation, meditation? Kind of what's your feelings about that?
Okay, so let me clarify by saying, I think the term self-care is thrown out there like, it's just part of the conversation today. And you flip on social media and everything you scroll through, right? Somebody's trying to sell you something. And I feel like that's kind of where it's like a marketing tool, right? But when we think about, and I think that there are important pieces to that. Like, I don't want to poo-poo that, I think it is important. Like if going for a massage or getting your nails done, or you like to go to a sauna, or like there's those more, they're just more like physical things that might make you feel better. I think it's important. But I also think that the spiritual side of self-care, you can do all of those things for hours and hours on end, but if you're not looking within yourself and doing the work, and I say the self-care, doing the internal work with ourselves to make sure that we feel good in our mind and body. I think they're very interconnected. I think it's kind of like you can do all the self-care in the world, right? You can do all the, you can do all the relaxation meditations you want, but if you're not truly looking at the things within your life that are causing you stress or unhappiness, then I feel like it's really hard to get anywhere. It's hard to grow from that.
It's really interesting about what you're saying about you being marketed. Self-care has always been marketed, and you do hear a lot of how people say you need to set aside a certain percentage of whatever income you've got for charity, or for you pay your bills first before you look after yourself. But yet people are now saying you need to set aside a certain amount of your income to get a massage, like do all the things that you said. And yeah, they are great feeling things, but it's also quite self-indulgent if you're not actually taking care of yourself. You're just taking part in an event rather
Yes.
than looking after yourself.
Right.
Enough.
And I think everything, it all has value. But at the end of the day, if you still feel not great within yourself, then I feel like you have to go deeper.
Yeah.
You have to.
Because it can add to a busy schedule. You've already got a busy schedule and
Right.
you're adding something else to it rather than just
Mhm.
taking time for yourself.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, and I'm somebody who meditation is a part of my everyday life. And I have the flexibility where I really, and I choose to incorporate it. A lot of people say, oh, I can't make the time. It's so hard. I have so much this, that, and the other. But the reality is, like everything, it all takes work. It all takes energy and effort. But what you get out of it is so much more. It spreads to all the different parts of your life so that it doesn't feel so insurmountable.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the biggest complaints that I get from clients today is everybody feels that they never have enough time for themselves. And I think that's so interesting. They're always racing, whether it's like home or work, or then maybe they have children, or maybe even they have a hobby, but then the hobby takes over. Like everyone's always feeling like they just don't have enough time.
Yeah.
And I think where it comes into the self-care piece, which is the making time to just kind of be with yourself.
Yeah.
And you and I talked about that kind of before we went on air, which was how much time do you make time to just be?
Yeah. Yeah. And like when we talk about things being kind of not dictated to us, but sold to us, is like there's a lot of coaches saying you just have to get up earlier to fit. Like you have to like when we say find time in the bubble of your daily routine, yes, but getting up early or going to bed later can be counterproductive to that when it comes to self-care. When it comes to actions and goals and tasks, yes, there's a place for that. But getting up early to do self-care takes away from the rest and may be counterproductive. So it's important to, not for anyone listening, it's important to decide for yourself, where does that fit for you?
Right.
Like,
is it 5 minutes of scrolling on your phone?
yes.
Is it, it's just finding, it's carving out those little windows. And also relieving the guilt from it. Because I also think that there's a big piece that's associated with that. I think, or at least commonly when I ask people about what they're doing for themselves, it's always, I should be doing more. And I know I do this, but I don't think it's enough, and I think sometimes you just have to let go of that, and we know that it varies from day to day, week to week, month to month.
Yeah.
But you have to listen to your body. What is your body telling you right now?
Yeah. And I saw something this week, actually, now that you've just said that, when you're thinking to yourself, it's not enough. Well, for who?
Right. Who are you doing it for?
Yeah. Who are you doing it for? Who are you,
Yes.
who are you like judging yourself against? Who are you putting yourself next to? Like, if you take that away from the equation, it is enough. Anything is enough if it helps you.
Absolutely.
Like, if it's when it comes to self-care, I'm talking about here. But a lot of people are like, oh, that's not good enough, or I haven't done enough of that, or I need to see more of this, or I need to eat more of that. Well, for who? Is it for you, or is it for someone else?
Yeah. I also think people too, they'll get on you get on a track, right? And I think this is, again, I'm coming back to like just basic human nature. We start something and we find it really wildly exciting, right? Like maybe I got into blah, blah, blah. Like I got into Tai Chi and I just started doing that every week, or I love yoga, right? And I started going every week and I was committed for a year. And then I just like fell off the wagon, and then people build this I was into it, but then they make an excuse about why they don't go back. And I'm a huge believer in just wiping all of that away, and you just run towards what excites you.
Yeah.
Right? Like it doesn't always have to be the same thing.
Yeah.
And different seasons can dictate that too.
What you just said, why does it have to be a wagon? Like, I went for a year, but then I fell off. Why is there a wagon? Like,
yeah.
Why? I just didn't want to do it anymore. What's wrong with just not wanting to do something? There's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, no, I don't want to. I'm moving my path. That's fine. We don't have to judge ourselves in that way. Okay, so the next one is spirituality and creativity. So we know, like, for some people are not, or they don't class themselves as creative. Like bakers sometimes, like my partner once said, I'm not creative, but spends hours making cakes and decorating cakes. And I'm like, how can you say you're not creative? When, like, so there's a lot of things people think they're not creative with, but they really are, and they really have that energy within them to be creative. So how for you does spirituality, let's going back to vision boards, that's quite a creative thing to do. How do you think spirituality fits into those tasks in life?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm going to come back. I feel like sometimes I sound like a broken record, but just because I'm really passionate about it, to be honest. I think we all have creativity within us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think with some people, it just takes, it's different forms, right? For me, it's, maybe it's artwork and baking and color and design and words and relationships with people, and then there are some people, like for instance, my husband, who's really creative with data. Like it's not my jam, it's not my thing, but he can talk about, information and gathering and collecting information and how we can apply that to different, genres and trains of thought. But like that's creativity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we each have these incredibly beautiful qualities that are deeply within each of us. They are a piece of who we are, and that's a part of, and I come back to totally spirituality, like total spirituality, because I view it like who I am, what is my purpose here on this planet, why am I here, and for me, when I think about those things, I think about all of the beautiful qualities that I like to exude or interact with people or show, and what excites me, what drives me. Those are like my passions. And when we don't live in alignment with what those things are, you don't feel great. You don't feel as excited about life. You're just not thrilled to be participating, whether it's you're going to a job that's kind of not bringing out those things in you, or maybe you're surrounded by people who don't bring those things out in you. So for me, and what I think the best way of kind of making that creativity grow and blossom is really just, again, focusing inward, intrinsically within yourself. And when you take the time to go inward, and it kind of comes back to meditation, but when you take that time to sit in just the quiet and you get rid of all of the thoughts of what's happened before and what's not yet to happen, but just kind of be in that moment, I have found such incredible bursts of creativity that have come from that experience. And then I've used it like in my everyday life. And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The byproduct of just, again, connecting with my own spirituality. Yeah. Does that?
No, do you know it does? And there was a couple of things that kind of popped up when you were talking about that. One was focus, and the other one was looking inwards to yourself. And I was just thinking then about, like, people, we talk about meditation, and just to kind of take it on the other side of meditation is when we silence the noise outside or take time. It doesn't need to be for self-care, but we take time just to focus on your surroundings without doing anything else. What can I hear? What's happening outside that window? That's a van. That's a tree. Like, not thinking anything about them, but just taking an awareness of my window's closed. I'm still kind of cold. And then what's the weather like? It just kind of one thing flows to another. And I sometimes do this with just a cup of tea. And as I'm drinking my cup of tea, I just think about basic facts. No thought process, just that's a house, that's a tree, there's two birds. And it clarifies, this is the point I'm getting at for anyone listening, is it clarifies a path and it clears a path in your head, and that's what can help your creativity to bloom. Because when we hear about things like writer's block or boredom that stops you, what's the phrase for that? When you get so bored you don't want to do anything. I can't remember the phrase for it, but lack of motivation, and it comes from not feeling good on the inside. And that's when we start to stop doing things that give us passion and give us energy. And I think that's very much where spirituality can come into play there, whether you meditate or not.
Well, and I think, the word meditation sometimes I feel like is such a generic thing, and people hear and they go, oh, there's the meditation thing again, right? And I don't want to turn people off from that, but it's more just what you just described, which is kind of getting rid of all of these outer noise things that are constantly distracting us, and not allowing us to truly hear the voice inside our head, right? And listen to our gut instinct about how we feel about something, about what we want to do. And I was actually just listening to a book this morning, an audio book that was talking about the same thing, about how, when we are constantly moving around today, we are living, most of us, honestly, are in a fight or flight mode all the time, all the time, because we are so used to the body's response to these types of things. I know we talked about this before, but, your body doesn't know the difference about whether you're being chased by an animal, right? Being in the wild, or whether that there's an annoying voicemail from your boss, right? It both elicits this feeling inside you that makes this, maybe your respiration increases, your heart rate goes up, the walls and your blood vessels are starting to constrict, your blood pressure begins to rise. Like, all of the same things are happening. And it just switches from that to the person who cut you off to, there's just constant feedback. And so when we are living in that state, our body, it goes into that protective mode where it tries to protect you by, rushing certain, what is it? It allows you to move faster, your brain to think quick, right? But it's drawing all the energy away from certain parts of your body so that it can protect you. And what happens is, we don't think clearly, and we cannot make clear decisions. It's literally stealing all of the energy. It's like shutting down parts of your organs so that it can provide more energy to other areas to help you escape, right? But we don't need to escape. We've evolved so much that we don't actually realize that we don't need to do that. And so I think when people complain today about being in a fog, about having brain fog, about feeling overwhelmed, all of those things, it all stems back to that. And so if we can incorporate that quietness just a little bit more into our lives and bring our bodies back into their natural state, that creative process is there. It is just under the surface. But we never quite give ourselves that time to develop it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, because when people say things like, they said this and I saw red, literally they saw red because of that urge of emotion that came up.
I find it really interesting today too, and I'm probably, I don't know, I'm very open to lots of modalities, but I just think it's becoming more and more popular, is the plant-based journeying and the ketamine therapy and all of that, and I think, and I'm just kind of playing around in my brain, it takes people out, away psychologically from their normal routine. It's forcing them into that state, right? So that's just another way that I think people are using it. But again, for me, it's not a chosen, method that I would use personally. I think it works for, it's wonderful for anybody who wants to, try that. But for me, I want to do that self-work to try to get there on my own without it being assisted, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And you mentioned a minute or two ago about a boss doing something. So then what about things like relationships? how for, well, let's start with for you. How does spirituality play its part in helping you to create a deeper communication with other people in your life? Doesn't need to be close partner, but just connection with other people.
Personally, for me, I definitely feel like I've grown so much spiritually in the last couple of years as I've really focused on this area of my life. And again, I'm coming back to the fact that I am calmer. I feel like again, having more creativity, being more calm, being able to be less reactive in a situation with someone, like especially when you're in a relationship where you're living with that person. There's just natural things that are going to come up that someone might do that could be off-putting or drive you crazy. But I think it's given me a lot more patience, if you will. Just being able to kind of lean into the non-reactive state, not always feeling like I need to react to something that's happening, but I can sort of think about it. And I know that I can put it to the side and say, okay, this happened, but I don't necessarily have to respond right in this moment. I can digest it and then I can think about it. And because I'm also doing the self-work of, who am I? Why did what this person just did? Why am I disagreeing with that? What about it annoyed me? Was it something truly that they did, or is it something within myself? And so that's been such an interesting development, is to kind of just be able to really kind of dissect those moments.
Yeah.
And honestly, it helped me sort of rewire my brain about how I want to be, what kind of a partner I want to be to my husband. And it's so interesting, when one person has the awakening and the other person's kind of, say, like along for the ride. I don't know if it's similar in your relationship.
Looking over the shoulder, like, what's happening now?
Yes, but I am married to someone who really, honestly, wholeheartedly accepts me in every phase of my life that I've been in, which, I mean, I really think you can't ask for more than that in a person. But welcomed and saw the positive shifts that I was able to achieve, and that inspired him to also want that too, which that's kind of cool when you think about it, that your partner sees it and wants to be able to experience it. And because of that, which you share, we've now gotten stronger and we have more things to talk about, and we both lead a life of just being a lot more positive, looking at things in a different light.
Yeah. So
now we can only get our children on board.
On the family spiritual train.
It's hard because you want everybody in your family to like think the way that you think in certain respects. Like you think, how could you not think about it this way?
It's also like, I think we've had this conversation last time as well, but when you just say, I just want you to see what I see.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you could see what I see and feel what I feel, you would get it. You would be straight next to me. You just wouldn't question it.
Do you know what I mean? But that's such a hard, that's part of the work on a daily basis of what I'm doing. And when I'm doing the work with clients in my Reiki practice, people walk in and they want you to wave the magic wand. They want to just be better. Mm-hmm. And I hate when I have to break it to them that they have to recognize that they have to be the ones to do the work. I can bring the energy to them, but it's truly up to them and their subconscious whether they want to do that work. And same goes for your family and your relationships. It can be a challenge. And on the sadder side of things, you could be somebody who is on their spiritual path right now. And I meet people like this too, who are like, I am, and I'm married to someone who doesn't understand this at all. Or I just feel like nobody understands me and you can't almost unsee what you've seen now. So you start losing these friendships that, you were once so close with someone, and now all of a sudden you realize that you have nothing in common with them anymore. Like I've been there too. I don't know if you've experienced that as well, but
Yeah.
you feel like you have to really, like, you're moving forward and unfortunately they're not.
Yeah. And it's a
But you
shame
want
because you get so far apart that you're not connected anymore to some people. And it's a shame, but it's okay. It doesn't
it is.
have to be a problem. It's just okay.
It is.
And I think having that knowledge, like we can have the same knowledge and the same feelings, but the journey will be completely different. And I think that's the beauty of having the good connection with people, is you can get what their journey is, even though it's not the same, because you've got that same basis, I think,
Mhm.
in the spiritual world. But I mean, for me, I'm inherently reactive because of my past and my the way I was raised or whatever. That sounds really disjointed, but yeah. And I find myself sometimes going, "Why would you?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute.
Yeah. You
Nobody
caught
died. Nobody got hurt. Nothing has changed the world. Just calm down, Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
There's no problem. It's so big that you need to react that way." Um, and my partner, bless him, like sometimes he's going, "What did I do?" I'm like, "Do you know what? You didn't do anything. It's just me. I just need to just let go." It just triggered me somehow. And we have a laugh about it, but I do find myself going, "I'm so sorry. I don't know why I reacted that way. Just because I saw you do something that in a way that I wouldn't do it. What is wrong with me?"
Well, but that's the magic moment, right? Where you look at yourself, which you're already doing, which is to say, hey, what is it about this that I
Yeah,
am not in agreement with? Why is this striking a chord within me? And being able to acknowledge whatever that is,
yeah,
and then choosing to just let it go.
yeah. And I
Mhm.
think for some people, it doesn't just stop. It's something that's kind of, it might still happen now and again,
Oh, you have
but
to work on
yeah,
it. It is
but being able
practice.
to go, actually, I'm okay. I don't need to react like that. I don't know what's where it came from. Um, yeah, so I think that brings me to forgiveness, right? Now, I've got this thing about the word forgiveness. I do not believe in forgiveness,
Ooh.
and I'll tell you why. And I've made videos on this before. So just in case any listeners have never heard it, for me, the word forgiveness, it comes from religion and the need to forgive someone by believing in someone else's viewpoint and judgment of you. Does that make
Mm.
sense? So, if you don't want to be judged, you have to forgive someone. And that's why I don't believe in forgiveness. I just think it's a double-edged sword. You can't win for losing. Um, and I do believe that you have to let go, and I do believe that you have to move forward. But
Mm.
I do not forgive anyone if they've wronged me. I don't
Mm.
forgive. I let them live their life. It doesn't affect me anymore. And some
Mm-hmm.
people say that's still forgiveness. That's fine. If somebody
Right.
wants to tell me that's forgiveness, good on you. I I'll let you have that. That's what you want to believe. But I never forgive for the reason that I don't believe in religion or
It's something
organized.
to relate to us, so I understand completely.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I say, I jokingly, like, I forgive, but I will never forget. No, I'm kidding. Um, I have really worked on that myself, to be honest, because I was like that previously, um, in earlier parts of my life where people just kind of wronged me, and like forever you would be dead to me, right? And it creates like a little air of trust
Mhm,
issues. But I agree with you in terms of the mindset.
mhm,
I wholeheartedly agree, that it really isn't about whether or not you're looking for that acceptance in that person. Like in that healthy mentality, it shouldn't matter what anyone else thinks about you,
mm,
right? It only matters what you think about yourself.
yeah,
Um, because who are we really competing with ultimately? Like the competition, like there is no competition. There's no like finish line of winning life,
yeah,
right? It's just about where you are on your journey. And that person is on their journey.
Yeah.
And again, like you guys might be in completely different, you know, paths or, you know, levels of your journey. And so, yeah.
For me, that's the important thing, though. You've just hit the nail on the head, because why do you have to forgive someone who's just being themselves?
Right. Then you're like judging them if you're
Exactly.
right?
Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
so when you really unpack it, it's like, why do you need forgiveness if you were just being who you are at that time in your life? Like, you shouldn't need forgiveness for doing something that hurt me. I'm not hurt anymore by it, and I'm okay, but I don't need to forgive you for being yourself. You were just being yourself, and that's
Right.
okay.
Right.
Like, that's what I expect from people. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't I do the same thing?
It's interesting too. Then you mentioned too, like the religious aspect, because here we are, right? We're talking about spirituality, and I do feel like people really automatically think religion and spirituality, like that there's no connection. And I guess I'm sitting here today in front of you as somebody like who, to be honest, I feel like the most spiritual I've ever been. I feel the most connected to whatever there is that this higher power, this energy, whatever we want to call it. And I truly have not stepped foot inside a place of religion, you know, like a gathering place in years now. And like, for me, it's not about, you know, again, like praying for forgiveness or, you know, it's to me, it's about coming back into my place on this earth. What I'm here to do, what are the ways that what do I have to contribute to the world to be able to express fully who I am in a really positive way, and bring light to others, and bring a sense of community, you know, with other like-minded souls. And I'm having a little bit of a hard time, honestly, politically right now, because I feel like religion is being brought into politics today, and I truly believe like it should be separate. But that's another discussion. But I love that we can sit here and talk about spirituality and know like it doesn't matter what you practice. I respect all, you know, different religions out there, different walks of life, belief systems. Like that's what's so beautiful about it. I don't really care what you practice. And whatever is important to you is important. But it doesn't replace the work. You can sit and pray to God every single day, but if you are not looking within yourself and how you feel about yourself, with yourself, and how you behave with others, then I don't really feel like you're fully spiritual in that regard, right? I mean, this isn't like my personal opinion of you. I'm just saying, I don't know that you're going to get the same effect, I guess. But that's your journey.
Exactly.
So.
And I think I don't really talk about religion, like, and I've had somebody on one episode start a religion conversation, and I said I'm not on to that. I've got nothing to say about actual religion. What I will say is, no matter which gathering place I've been to, Gurdwara, a mosque, a Catholic church, a Christian church, I always want to cry, and in most instances I just start crying. I just get really overwhelmed by it, and I don't know why. And somebody once said to me, "That's God," and I said, "I'll let you have it." It's for me, it's just my connection. I'm connected. That's where that's as far as I'll go. But if anybody thinks I'm, what's the word when blasphemous? If anybody thinks I'm being blasphemous at the moment, I forgive you. That's forgiveness, yeah. But no, that's just. I think the word forgiveness it's a strange one for me, for that reason. I think spirituality could be a number of things. It could be your religion. It could be the universe. It could be healing. There's so many options that spirituality could take, and that's fine. I love it all.
I do too.
I love all of it. Whichever. I just will not
bring it on.
Forgive, and I won't use the term forgiveness for that reason. But I mean, we're talking about spirituality anyway. What about purpose then? Because, well, we've spoke about religion. We may as well just take it full circle. Religion gives people purpose, right? So when you don't have, I mean, some of us, if we're talking about universe and energy, we'll call the source our God. Some of us will say, I am my own God and I'm connected to source energy. Like there's a whole plethora of things that we might refer to. But how do you think spirituality helps us achieve the purpose that we're after? Because we use it for a reason, right?
Mhm.
There's a
I think
reason we connected to it.
help us. I mean, honestly, I'm going to come back to what I was saying earlier, which is there is this spark. There is something inside of all of us that, I mean, you know when you feel it, right? You know when you're doing something that excites you, that you feel passionate about, right? And you're drawn to it, right? You want to do more of it, whatever that is. And for every single human on this planet, it's a different thing or a different combination of things. And so when we allow ourselves to express that part of ourselves, I feel as though it's the most, I think, truest way of living in the best spiritual alignment that you could possibly live with within yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think physically people feel better when they're in that state. Their minds are clearer. Their bodies feel better. And again, it can be, I'm just trying to think, I mean, it can be, there's so many facets. I mean, it can be connected to things that we do for work. It could be completely unrelated to work. It could be, you know, those relationships. It could be hobbies. But I think it's so important because truly, like, what is life for us without joy, without the excitement, without having things that make us excited about living?
Yeah.
Right? The purpose. What's the point of being here if you're not experiencing that?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's
where I know your wheels are going right now.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about, like, it's kind of, again, it's full circle because I end up thinking about community and most of our purpose. And when we get excited by something, it's never usually alone. We're drawn to the people who are doing those things as well. And it's a couple more down on my list, but it's communities on my list. And I think that's why we feel so strong about purpose when we've decided what makes us feel good and we've decided where that focus is going to go. The people play a big part in it as well.
Do you feel like you figured out your purpose yet?
Oh, I think do you know what? It's a strange one because when I became a presenter at 30, I was 29 or 30, and I got my first presenting job and I'd been to drama school and all that kind of stuff. And I stood up in front of audiences. I was like, this is my purpose. I need to exude emotions from people.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. I was like, I need to let people feel emotions.
Mm-hmm.
That was my purpose. With no set emotion, I want people to feel. Yeah, I just need to let people feel. And to this day, I've been doing it ever since. But the strange thing is, when I finish one job and I'm not presenting for that group anymore, I worry, and this is going to sound really morbid, but I worry that I'm going to die because I might not get a chance to do it again. And I'm like, when does that purpose end? Like, is it decided?
Never.
Do I need to keep that purpose going? Like, what happens if I decide not to do that anymore? Will the universe just decide, okay, if you're not doing your purpose, you're not needed? Like, it's a strange feeling, but I get that every time I change career or change task or change job.
I think that's just allowing fear to dominate.
Yeah.
You know, that's like an old emotion that you're expressing from a previous experience,
Okay.
right? It's fear of maybe failing or not necessarily moving forward.
Yeah.
And tying back to confidence, right? But I think if you just continuously live in that, this is exactly what brings me joy. This is what brings me passion. It doesn't matter whether it's this presenting job or 3 down the line from now, or maybe it's just something else. Maybe you're doing work with, you know, children's organizations in your community, and you're speaking in front of them, like whatever, or inspiring someone else who is connected to the same passion as you. Like I think it's going to morph. It's going to take different forms over the course of your life, because like, let's just be real. Like, you're not the same person you were 10 years ago, right? You're constantly evolving. So I do think also that part of you is always going to be evolving. Like what you got jazzed about, 5 years ago is not necessarily what you're excited about today. And same goes for me. And I think allowing that, again, the creativity, the idea, the spark to just flow and say, okay, like, I'm not stuck on it being this particular thing, right? Like, again, if I look at what I'm doing, like, I was living a totally different life, decided that, the energy work was, it's always been a part of me, but to actually focus on that more. And that's what I've been doing. But in 10 years from now, I can't tell you what I'll be doing. It could be something else, you don't know. But I think as long as you continue to feel like you're living in that alignment with whatever it is that's bringing you joy.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting it from this, then seek it somewhere else,
I think that's a key point as well for anybody listening. For me, it took me so long to find my purpose, because I'd been working since I was 15. So you're looking at 16 years before I really went, oh, this is what I'm here for. This is what I need to be doing. There's no right or wrong time to find it. If you don't think you found it yet, it's on its way. Like,
absolutely. And truly, it's just there. You just haven't taken the time to tune in and feel it truly. And I say this too to my kids all the time. Half of life is kind of figuring out what you don't want to do, right? Like, when you just try it all. Just
exactly.
Do anything, because A might lead to something else, and then you're in that other thing, and then the next thing you know, you took a right turn and you're down this hallway, and you didn't know you were going to end up there. But if you just stayed in well, I don't think that's what I want to do, or I'm unsure about this, or no, that's not my passion. Like, you're just stuck. You're not moving anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's just giving yourself the freedom to choose, to try. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah,
right?
definitely. Okay, so from there then, again, we might be covering some old ground, but personal growth, and this is like a really important one, because we did mention a few minutes ago that everyone's journey is not the same, and some people might not realize what's in front of them. And I think for me, this is where personal growth came in, because it wasn't until I started doing self-development and I was fully introduced to the energy and alignment. Like, I'd meditated, did the crystal work and the chakras and aligning myself, but I didn't really get on the same plane until personal development kicked in, which was in my 30s. So what?
And define personal development for you. Was that just kind of thinking about what are my thought patterns about how I think, or how would you describe that?
Do you know what? I had to go through a list of what I didn't like in my life first, and then the general stuff, finances, like career. Career was okay. It just didn't bring me the money I thought it was going to bring me when I went to uni. So then I went from that, and I was like, relationships, and then I got a list of books that tackled one at a time. And then I started working on finances, becoming wealthier than I already was, not living hand to mouth all the time, not in one hand out the other. Then I went to career, and then I went to relationships, which helped me really nurture communication with people. And it just kind of spiraled and spinballed. One book led to another, and before I knew it, I'd read about 50 books on different personal development. And then I was like, I exactly know who I am now. And my life is completely different now than it was 20 years ago, which is amazing. But that's what I wanted. And it's just not knowing where to start. Just start. For
I
me,
think
it
that's,
was just start. Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel that way, right? They get overwhelmed when they think about how do I change this thing and how do I change that thing?
Yeah.
But you're right, you just start, pick one thing to do and to learn about
Yeah.
and to, try and see what comes from there.
And I
A
did
lot.
a vision board back then as well. That was one of the first tasks that I did. But I didn't believe in it. So I did it. It was a nice little crafting project. And then it sat on my wall for like 2 years and nothing manifested. Everything takes work. Nothing just happens for no reason. But that's what I didn't understand.
Mm.
I was like, if I just put a board together, it will just happen. Like it's not that simple. Like now we know that. But
It's all intention. It's
yes.
all about the intention behind it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's
And
something I learned at the time as well. It's action based. Like whether it's conscious or subconscious, like you have to align what you physically do with what you physically want. Otherwise, we're
mentally, you actually have to project, right, where you want to go in your mind,
yeah,
and the rest of the physical world will support that,
yeah,
right? It's just creating the idea.
mm-hmm.
And I think if you are someone who chooses, you can go any which way. You can choose to live in a negative train of thought or like a lower vibrational thought that the world is so hard and nothing's working out for me. Well, then the universe is going to support and show you that, right? But if you take the mental state and choose to say, I'm living in abundance and things are always working out for me. Opportunities are arriving every day. The universe is going to show you that.
Yeah.
It's a vibration, a frequency. Our emotions emit actually frequencies.
Yeah.
Energetic fields around us.
Yeah. And it's funny you bring that up because I've just started reading the 16 lessons of success, which if you've ever heard of Think and Grow Rich.
What was the, well, I'm sorry, I didn't miss
Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, Think and Grow Rich. No, I never heard of that.
So that's one of the first books that I read, but I saw something online a couple of weeks ago on a reel, and it said Think and Grow Rich was edited down in the 30s and 40s because there was too much information in the original publication that made people get everything they want. So they edited it down to stop success in America. And the minute I heard it, I was like, I need to read that original book. And that's
I'm on it. That'll be my next read.
That's what I'm reading now. So again, like what you're talking about, vibration. The first chapter talks about electrons, atoms, molecules, and all that kind of stuff. And it says that they're all physical things within us except electrons. They're so small that they can travel from here to anywhere you want it to go and take it back with more. Right. And if I was like, so that's the basis of vibration is in your electrons. It's the energy field that you project, like you said. And have you ever heard the phrase, if you pull out one grey hair, 10 will come to its funeral?
I have heard
Right?
that.
That's what happens to your electrons when you vibrate. You send electrons to go to that energy, and because you're still here, it pulls more back, and that's what's bringing you what you need. And it's just like so interesting because I'd never seen it put like that before.
Right. Well, it's the quantum physics
Yeah,
theory,
exactly.
right? All of that. It's like I was actually, I'm reading a book right now too that, talks about this, and it's just, it sounds so out there, but so much of it, I don't know, it feels like it makes so much sense to me, right? Like we are energy. Everything in the universe is energy. It just expressed in different forms. And so if you're expressing certain energetic frequencies, right, they are actually surrounding you. Like it's coming out of you. Have you ever walked into a room where somebody's having a tantrum or is really angry about something? Can you feel that palpable energy that they're emitting? Or maybe you've been around somebody who's devastated and hysterical, right? Like you can actually feel
Mm-hmm.
the changes in energy in a space. And so if energy is that strong, right, and we have this field that's surrounding us that is a part of who we are and we're a part of it, that vibration attracts like vibration.
Yeah.
So if you're putting out that a particular frequency, that's what you're going to get back.
It's
Going to
like for like, isn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge piece of what sort of fuels me to be living in a higher alignment, higher vibration. And listen, I think we all have those moments where we feel down, or there's thoughts that pull us back to a past experience. But then you're really truly not living in the now. You're living in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You're reliving an emotion that has already passed. And that's not the present.
Yeah.
So I really try to focus on that more than not. And it's fascinating. I love to teach people about this. Because I think, again, where you come back to where some people just, they don't even know where to start. They just know that they're not happy where they are.
Yeah.
So just sharing some of these ideas and concepts and just little things to practice, I think people can really change their energy. They can change their lives just by the way that they think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think anyone listening as well, like when you hear us talking about this, you can obviously tell we're passionate.
We so are.
And there's a lot that we see, and I don't want to put anything down online, but there's a lot of reels and TikToks and things that give you a basis of something, and the words manifestation, meditation, energy, vibration, it can be, I'm using air quotes, thrown around so much sometimes online that you might not grasp actually what you have to do about it. So just doing that little bit of research into what does it mean? What actually is that vibration? Like when you want to vibrate or attract, law of attraction you may have heard of, when it kind of all kind of revolves around the same principles, even though it's not the same thing. And just take some time out, go and look into it, so you don't become one of the herd saying, I've manifested, I'm trying to manifest, and not really manifest anything. Because it's possible. You just have to learn the tools to do it. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to amalgamate the last two that we've got, and it's gratitude and hope is the final one. And I think they kind of come hand in hand, because perfect example about politics in America that you mentioned. We can be grateful for so much that we have and where we are and the jobs that we've got and the people we're surrounded by. But at the same time, we can also need hope from the other side of that coin. So optimism for the future. How are we staying grateful for what we have and who we are, whilst keeping hope for the things that we're not focusing on, but we're still not very happy about?
Right. It's picking, where in that energetic, rainbow do we want to be?
Yeah.
And I think, look, we talked about that feeling of helplessness and fear of things that are going on in our world. I think that's a very real thing for a lot of people. I think we can choose to stay there, but I think that is sort of looking at a frequency that is lower. It is something that, when you go into fear and you start worrying about all the things that could go wrong, right? You start directing your attention, just like what we spoke about, right? Into things that really they're not in existence yet, but you're going to think them into existence by just putting out that particular idea and that frequency. So if we can choose to focus on things like gratitude, hope, joy, kindness, the things that make us happy, the things that make us feel good, we can raise the collective vibration, and certainly, I think, change our own realities. And it's actually, it doesn't cost anything. It's just taking the time to really focus on those things. And even if it's just a few minutes a day, and maybe it's, I think it is important that we educate ourselves about what's going on in the world. but not let it overpower everything.
Yeah.
Right. We need to make, okay, I'll watch this, but I'm just going to watch just a little bit of it just so I know what's really going on. But I'm going to switch to, okay, now I'm going to make time to focus on the positive things that are going on.
Yeah,
'Cause I think,
I agree with that. I try not to watch the news or read articles, but the minute somebody says, "Have you heard?" and tries to tell me, I think that's a
Mhm.
great conversation starter. And I'm like, "Tell me, what is it? I've not seen it yet. Tell me." And it builds a relationship. Like, why
Mm.
should all this negative news not have a nice positive outcome? Different scenario. The positive
Yeah.
outcome is I'm building a relationship with somebody, but I'm using your negative news to help build my life.
And when you think about it, I mean, the more things that I watch and the more things that I listen to, and I sort of, I fall in that weird category where it's like, I don't want to listen to anything because I really don't want to be brought down. But
Yeah.
then I also, there's the reality of like, I should really know what's going on in the world. It's important that I can talk about politics and, just educate myself and know truly what's going on. Because I also think, you know, allowing things and not standing up for what you believe in, if you have a particular, passion about something, like I think we all need to be able to be, educated on the things that are important to us. Um, but, but also I think, I'm losing my train of thought. Um, I think there's importance of watching all of that, but then I also think, here's what I was thinking, that we all have different opinions, right? Like I'm married to someone who doesn't have exactly the same opinions than I do, and I love to hear like his perspective and why he thinks something is right or not is right or isn't, but like, hey, this person has a point because of blah blah blah, and then I think, oh, this person has a point because of the other thing, and then together somehow, I mean, I think most of it's all broken, but I think that's also just kind of the way of the world today. That
Yeah.
one in the way of the world, I think everything in the world is technically, I'm going to use the term broken, but like
Yeah.
everything in the world is not perfect, right? There's no perfection. It's just whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so your perception on what's happening today can shift and change to what's happening tomorrow. And it's all just like a snapshot of when you're looking at it, right? Like if we come back to like emotions, right? And you look at something and it feels really heavy, like you heard something on the news and you're just like really upset. And then you give it 24 hours and then another 24 hours, and it doesn't feel as intense as it did the first time you heard it,
Yeah.
right? So I think there's also like putting that space between what's going on as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if any of this is making sense.
It is. And like, without talking politics, the same situation does happen over here. And I think I love those conversations that I can have around the dinner table with my friends who've got different opinions and different viewpoints, and we can just hash it out and like listen to each other and just have a conversation about it.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
like my take on, doesn't need to be politics, but we, again, air quotes, the small people, we cannot comprehend what is happening behind the doors of world leaders. We could not
Mhm.
even comprehend it. The thing that is actually happening, we don't even know about.
Oh,
Not
yes.
we are oblivious to everything. So why are we getting so hung up on the fact that these people have so much control over us?
Right.
And I
Well,
think
I
for
think,
me, this is where gratitude comes in, because it's like, well, you and your big bubbles can do all of those things, but out of all of that, I've still got this, I've still got that, I've still been able to do this, I've still got my health, I can still get to work, and I can still feed myself, I can still help people in need, there's so much we've got and we can do. And if you feel like you don't, then there are people out there to help you with that.
right.
There's communities to support anyone. Please don't. I don't want to sound like I'm in a soapbox here, but please just ask.
Yeah,
Like,
I think,
please put pride to the side and just tell people if you need or you want, or you just need a hug in today's day and age. Like, we all need support and we all need to help each other.
That's a huge thing for me that a lot of us, I think a lot of people feel helpless,
Yeah.
right? We feel like we don't know how we can contribute. How can we make the world a better place right now? Especially, right, like I'm not at that level, right? I'm not a political leader. I'm just me in my own little world. But yes, how am I contributing locally? And again, that comes back to finding the joy in what I enjoy doing and bringing that to other people. And when I can do that and make someone else feel better, then maybe their day gets a little easier, and being able to process everything else that's going on in the world becomes a little easier. And so that little domino effect, makes big waves, I think.
And this comes back to the spirituality and energy side of it, because hope is held in the smaller communities, not in the big bubbles of things we don't even know about behind closed doors in wherever they're making their decisions. And by they, I mean whoever. It doesn't really matter who we're talking about here. But our hope is always held on the level that we spend with each other, the communities we're in, the work that we do, the help that we give, the support we provide. It's just, this is where hope sits for me.
You also, there's something you said earlier about, when we're talking about you living in alignment, and how bringing that joy, right, of making people feel something together, that sense of community, I think people really crave, and we forget as human beings that we need each other.
Yeah.
So much. We crave that human connection, whether it's through touch or emotion, just listening or speaking with someone, being in their presence. I'm sure you've heard of those studies and seen those studies. I mean, where you see, like, where they talk about even children who've been in orphanages, right, who've never been picked up or held.
Yeah.
They haven't experienced that human touch, or they've done studies that they call it in America. I remember when my son was born and he was in a preemie in the NICU, and they did this thing called kangaroo care. I don't know if you have ever heard that expression.
I've not heard of that, no.
So it's where they place the baby on the mom, and and he was so tiny. I mean, they placed him like inside my shirt. He was so tiny, and I would just like wrap my clothes around him and just hold him. But he was hooked up to all the leads, right? All the oxygen and the heart rate and the whole thing. And the second that they put him on my body, like, his oxygenation levels would increase. Like, it's physically, there's a physical reaction that happens when two people come together.
Yeah.
And I see it every day in what I do, and the energy work, and the touch when I'm practicing. It's a non-sexual way. It's a very light touch, but it's like people need that touch, that affirmation.
Yeah.
Their bodies respond to that. So I think it's really important, that sense of community, whether we're just together in a space, or you're holding someone's hand, or you're giving them a hug. We need more of that.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where hope lies for everyone listening. Like, we will help hope around the world
We're here
with
for
our
you.
conversation. Yeah. Okay, so there we are. I'll tell you what, tell us where we can find all you and your stuff again, Rebecca, for anyone who's only just met you for the first time.
So you can find me on my website at healingwithrebecca.com, or on Instagram at Healing Reiki with Rebecca. And that's REIKI. And I have all of my upcoming events are always up there. I'm always doing some things in the community, whether it's healing circles. I also do one-on-one Reiki sessions. And I love to share the knowledge of the energy work, and really just connecting with people, helping people learn to reconnect with their own ability to heal themselves. And we talked about that earlier. It's inside of everyone. Everyone has this. It's just sometimes we've really forgotten how to get there.
Yeah.
And so that's what my joy is really helping people to find that again. So
yeah, definitely. Guys, head over and check out Rebecca. I love seeing all your events on Instagram and
Oh,
keeping up to date with them. They look so good. I wish I was in New York.
I do too. I really do too.
But there we go, guys. So head over and check out Rebecca. Make sure you give her a follow and drop her some comments. Reiki and healing is a powerful tool for promoting your health and your well-being of you, making a positive impact in your lives. I hope our conversation today has really helped you guys to listen in on spirituality and how it can fit into your life and help to support you just that little bit better. Thank you, Rebecca, for joining us on today's podcast episode. It's been great to see you again.
Oh, thank you.
And
Same
thank
here.
you guys for tuning into this episode of MAMWAA. And don't forget, for me, subscribe to the podcast, stay tuned for future episodes, and follow us on Facebook, Gordy Camp TV, and at Gordy Camp on Instagram and Threads. And until next time, stay well, stay positive, and keep developing that spirituality for your better life and your better future. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.